In this video, learn how to solve for your idiotic trading caused by not making enough money in your smartest trade idea.
Hi, I'm Mike Bellafiore, co-founder of SMB Capital, and we're a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan. And I'm also the author of the trading classic, One Good Trade, and the Playbook. Click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos that we're producing for you in the trading community.
See how a junior trader creates an anti-playbook trade to help eliminate his bad trading and bad trades that are holding him back from being the trader he can become. Let's get to work.
This is my anti-playbook consisting of the midday breakout trade. So looking at the bigger picture on this day, we're re-approaching this $300 area in SPY. Volume's been decreasing throughout the bounce from the lows. So volatility's been decreasing, but still generally elevated. And there's been thoughts that the market's been overbought, but we haven't seen that second leg lower like many were anticipating. Places are beginning to open up as stay-at-home orders are starting to be lifted. The trade idea. So the way I kind of break this down is I walk through my process of how I ended up taking the poor trade that I need to cut from my playbook. And it all stems from feeling like I haven't made enough on one of my A+ setups. So my trade idea coming into this morning was I was looking at NVDA. We were gapping down below yesterday's range. We've also started to see a small rotation out of tech in the semiconductor space over the past day. And on this particular day, we ended up having an opening drive lower, indicating possibility of continuation sector outflows. And so my idea was to look to get short on a low volume retracement into VWAP once the offers begin holding lower, risking a hold above VWAP and anticipating a trend lower for the day if the market and sector were also participating in the same direction. For me, this trade idea was a trade to hold for a longer intraday move. And so that was my game plan coming into this day.
So walk me through the psychology that you're highlighting there that leads to you trading poorly. You mentioned you didn't make enough. Help me to understand that.
Yeah, so it was in my poor execution of the trade. When I took the trade, when I actually executed on the trade, I was too zoomed in on every single tick that the tape was showing and ended up cutting most of my size before my exit rules said I should have, since this was a trade to hold. This wasn't a momentum scalp. And so when I realized that I cut most of my size and got flat and then didn't re-add, that got me into a poor mental state where I felt like mentally I was down in the trade, even though like my P&L wise I was up in the trade. So I feel like by underutilizing in that trade, that put me in a poor mindset that got me to taking trades that I know don't have edge in the current market environment, such as midday breakouts.
So you put on a trade to hold, but then you cut your trade to hold before your exit rules suggest you should?
Correct.
And then you got back in?
No, I didn't follow my re-entry rules. And that was...
You found a really good trade. You cut it too early. And the trade continued to work, and you got out of kilter because you saw you could have made more? Is that what happened?
Correct.
Okay. And you were focusing on, hey, I should either still be in this trade, or I should have made more in this trade. I should be up more. And that mindset led to you doing some stuff that's not in your self-interest? Is that what we're talking about here?
Correct, absolutely.
So why did you cut? You mentioned you were in a trade to hold, so why did you cut too early? If you have rules, let's sort of understand that. So if you have rules as to when you're going to exit, and that hasn't come yet, why are you cutting? I don't mean to in any way make it seem like trading is that easy, because it's not. But I want to just understand what's going on in your mind. Is there some way in your exits, in your rules to exit, where you say, if I see the tape starting to change, that I'm going to cut it? And you started to think you saw that, but you didn't really see it? Is that what we're talking about?
It was more, I started to notice or see this trend when I began trying to size up. And so I think in the back of my head, I was starting to think about the P&L. And when I start to think about the P&L, I get too zoomed into the tape in times where I shouldn't, and which causes me to take trade decisions when no trade decision should have been made.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that happens a lot, one of the things that people do is they cover up their P&L. One of the things that people do is they write down what their exits are, keep that in front of them for their trades to hold. It helps remind you this is the real exit. So those are just a couple of quick ideas. What are you thinking about in terms of helping yourself hold for the real move, for the move that you intended, for the reason why you're in the trade?
Noticed this about after taking probably like 4 midday breakouts, and I kind of like worked backwards to try to see like why I was taking those trades in the first place. Some of the rules that I started to implement are by reinforcing like why I'm in the trade in the first place, what my bigger picture idea is, and just kind of continuously reinforcing myself like why I'm in the trade, what my rules are, and having that positive self-talk to keep me in the trade and prevent me from making trade decisions when I shouldn't otherwise be taking trade decisions. So it's a combination of having my rules in front of me and then constantly telling myself like I'm right in the trade. I don't have a reason to exit yet, so I shouldn't be exiting.
Were you engaging in self-talk while you were in this trade?
On this particular trade, I don't believe I was, which was one of the reasons why I think I cut it too early.
Yeah, I mean, that's another excellent way to overcome this. You say to yourself, hey, is it a reason to exit? Is it a reason to exit? I do think, though, being clearer about exactly what your reasons to exit are for these trades and keeping that in front of you is a good way for you to think about getting better with these trades to hold. Is that something you've ever done before?
Yeah, so I continuously go back through and kind of like reevaluate my exit rules and add rules based on the trade itself. But I definitely think one of the things that I could do a better job of is being as specific as possible, especially when it comes to my exit rules. I generally have like an outline, but I think by being more specific, that would help me to hold my trades for the real moves.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think keeping it in front of you, like literally putting it next to your keyboard when you're in one of these trades, just write down, I'm not going to get out of this until XYZ 1, 2, 3. And I love the idea of self-talk. That's terrific. You're 100% love that thought as well. I think the combination of those three will be particularly helpful. Self-talk, writing down, doing a better, going back and being more specific about your exit rules, and then keeping that in front of you. Those things strike me as a powerful combination to get a little bit better at holding these trades to hold.
If you want to learn 3 real-world setups that our traders use, including the simple setup that we teach all of our new traders and the setup that turned one of our traders into a 7-figure big money earner, check out the free webinar that we're currently running. Just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing right now at the top right-hand corner of your screen. That's going to open up this free registration page in the new window, so don't worry, you're not going to lose this video. You're going to learn more in a couple of hours from this trading workshop than from years of online education.
So in this particular day, there wasn't a news catalyst to cause semiconductors to fall. This was more of just like a sector play. We were seeing a little bit of rotation out of like semis and tech and kind of more into like financials, for instance. So the ATR for NVDA on this day was about 15. Average daily volumes over 15 million. Elevated RVol, no real short float, 71% institutional ownership. And so now looking at this trade for NVIDIA, we were starting to get outside of yesterday's range, had the opening push lower, and a nice low volume retracement into VWAP, which was what I wanted to see to get involved in this trade on this day. And I've outlined some of my rules for like adding back into the stock and exiting. While I knew like coming into today, like what my exit rules were, like where I was going to be wrong if the setup came through, I didn't have these rules in front of me, and I wasn't continuously reinforcing them while I was in the trade. which is why you see me cover the position so quickly. I wasn't sticking to the exit rules that I outlined that worked for this particular setup. That got me into a poor mindset, realizing that the stock had another 15, 20 points lower, and that I should have done my job of getting back in where I could have, risking the appropriate amount. And the fact that I didn't got me into the poor mindset that led me into taking setups that I had previously cut from my playbook, but setups that I found myself taking recently as a result of being in this mindset. Here I just outlined some of the variables. I had a significant number of variables for me. We were outside of yesterday's range. We had a strong opening drive lower, elevated R-vol. We spent almost no time above VWAP. Time of day was still in my favor. It was still early enough in the day that the stock could trend. I had the market and sector acting as a tailwind by also showing weakness, and we also hadn't even moved a full ATR. So I had a lot of checks in my favor, and so when I realized this, and I realized that I didn't get in, and I didn't follow my rules, I knew I had made a serious mistake. That led me to getting into a poor mindset to take the following poor trades that I'll show.
I just want to go back to that. You do a really good job of laying out variables. This is a great trade. This is a trade I want to take. One thing that I wonder about in this market is how you're thinking about the overall strength of the market, the overall strength of the sector, and how that's playing into your exit rules.
Yeah, so I know that the semiconductor and the tech industry itself has been generally strong during this bounce in the market. They've been a relatively strong sector, so...
Should we call it strong or something else?
It's really strong.
Super strong.
The strongest, I think it was the strongest sector on the way up.
We'll call it super strong.
Yeah. And so I hadn't necessarily considered that as a factor in my exit rules. For me, when I was taking this trade, I really wanted to make sure that I had market and sector support. So if I saw that the sector and other names in the sector and the market was also bouncing, that would have also impacted how I would have taken size off. I didn't outline that in my previous slide, but mentally if I saw the market and the sector also bouncing, that would have
Well, the reason I bring that up is because for this trade to get your attention going forward, you would want to see on the daily chart an overextension in this particular name, and maybe even an overextension relative to its peers. Why do you want to short a really, really strong stock? You want to short a really strong stock because it's just too parabolic. And even better, it's just too parabolic relative to its peers. I don't know that I want to be making this short in the middle of a range. I don't know that I want to be making this trade on the short side if it had recently made a new 52-week high or a new important high. In a strong market with a strong sector, really probably only taking this trade if it's just way overextended. We're looking at our Bollinger Bands, for lack of a better indicator, and it's just too extended away from the top of the Bollinger Bands we're looking at. That's something that gets me interested. And these can be really good trades and fine for you to be looking at that, but that's why I asked that question about the daily chart. I think that's got to go into your variables for this trade to work and overextend, because it's so strong, an overextended move on the daily chart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think NVIDIA too, I don't have it written on here, NVIDIA was also making all-time highs at this time, so that also contributed to the fact that I kind of did think that they were starting to get overextended. I don't include those variables in here. I do think they're 100% valid though. NVIDIA was one of the strongest semiconductors in the space, so I think the fact that it was showing clear weakness was kind of a change in character, and something that I should have included in this slide.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think I see two trades that will work for something like this in a strong market and a strong sector: an overextension and a clear rotation out of the sector that you can spot across all the other peers in its sector. I see those two trades worth exploration.
These were two instances in which I had taken midday breakout scalps as a result of having that feeling like I didn't make enough in my A+ setup in NVIDIA. And as a result, this led me to taking a breakout in ADAP here. As you can see, I'll outline this in a future slide. ADAP was in the middle of a range. It was midday. I think it was about 11:45. Time of day was not in favor of taking a momentum scalp, given the fact that volumes dried up, volatilities generally dried up, and the fact that algos are generally playing games on the tape. So you can see things on the tape that aren't usually there. Another trade that I took that same day was a breakout trade in Tilray. Tilray had already moved about 3 ATRs at this point. We were up at high day, and I ended up getting long for breakout. Given that we had this crescendo of volume, just looking for a momentum scalp, and given the fact that we are at about 11:30 hitting momentum, it's generally not a good strategy for me in the current market environment. When volatility was much more elevated, these trades were generally working, but now that volatility has been coming down, these are trades that I've kind of shelved. So the fact that I was taking these was alerting me to something that I needed to change in my process, in my mindset.
Are you sensing that you're agitated because you didn't make enough and a good idea that you planned for? Are you sensing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Once I noticed this, I noticed that I also needed to make rules so I can better adapt how I respond when I have that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, so a quick cheat procedure, a quick cheat technique is to take 5 centering breaths. We think better when we're calm. We think worse when we're agitated. You almost can't think well when you're in an agitated state. It's not you, it's just the way we're all wired. So you've got to get back to that sense of calm. And so if you can just take 5 deep breaths in and out and center yourself, calm down, get your heart rate down. You want to get your heart rate down, that's the key. And you practice that over time, you should get pretty good at being able to pretty quickly get your heart rate down and get your better thinking going. Or until that point, it's fine to just get up and go take a walk and think about it. There are strategies also to keep checking this. So good to have scheduled breaks throughout the day, so you are getting away and giving yourself more chances to reset, recharge, and catch yourself from getting too agitated. Now there are rules that you can come up with. If I make 3 sloppy, 1 bad trades in a row, I have a rule that I'm going to get up and walk away. That'll keep you from getting yourself into too much harm. So 3 anti-playbook trades in a row, I'm up, I'm walking away, I'm going to get a drink, I'm going to give myself a 10-minute reset, and I'm going to come back. Visualization is great to visualize yourself in these situations we've talked about in the past. But yeah, you shouldn't be trading. You're not going to be trading at your best when you're in this agitated state, and you have to get yourself out of it. You have to have techniques to get yourself out of it. Even if you were trading setups with edge, you'd probably mess them up if you're in that agitated state. You need to have the edge, and you also have to bring your best self to the marketplace to trade things well. Some techniques you've been thinking about to help you when you're in this agitated state that might work for you?
Yeah, so I am definitely a big proponent for visualization. So something that I've been recently doing is visualizing myself getting into that mindset and then visualizing calming myself down. I don't necessarily do breathing exercises, but I go through mentally ways to calm myself down. And then I also have physical things that I do. So when I realized that I was taking these trades, that was a forced time out for me from trading. Get up, go take a walk. That's me taking my walks every day. That's something that I find keeps me very centered. So now I would normally just take walks either midday or after the close. Now I've made a rule to where if I feel like I'm in that mindset, I need to just get up and take a walk right then and there to prevent me from taking trades like these. So it's a combination of both of them.
Good. Excellent. And look, you're not going to be perfect. Don't try and be perfect. Try and be better.
So here I just go through and talk about the different trade variables for these two setups, kind of just outline like why they were bad and why I should be eliminating them from my playbook. So for ADAP, which was the first chart that I showed, we had made new 52-week highs with a really strong catalyst and had elevated R-vol. Those were checks in my favor. But the things that were against me were the fact that we're midday, so momentum plays are less likely to work, algos are in control. We're also in the middle of a range, so it's not like we have clear room ahead of us. And we'd also already moved several ATRs, so we'd already expended a lot of energy. So the question then becomes, how much upside is there really for me to be taking one of these trades? And as I outline why I took this trade is because of feeling like I didn't make enough in one of my previous setups, didn't follow my rules, and then feeling like a mentally down P&L. And I'll go through in, I believe, like 2 or 3 slides, kind of how I'm making the changes to prevent these. And then I also do this for Tilray. So the check marks that were for me, we were getting above some recent highs on the higher time frames, elevated R-vol, sympathy names were also moving. We also had a news catalyst. But again, the things that were against me were the fact that we're midday, we're at high of day, we've already moved ATR and a half. So a lot of our energy's already been expended. And when I compare the trade variables from Tilray and ADAP to that of NVDA, it makes no sense to be taking trades like these when I have so many checks that are for and against. When I have setups that have many more checks in my favor that are for, like NVIDIA, those are the trades that I should be taking. I shouldn't be making exceptions for me to be taking these poorer setups that have checks for and against. And so looking through the lessons and rules, one of the things that, as we've already mentioned, is going back to the concept of just being patient and centering yourself. So for me, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm getting off the desk anytime I feel like I have to make back P&L that I left on the table in one of my A+ setups. I'm also clearing my head, waiting for a worthwhile trade to come to me after I've taken my walk. I'm not forcing a trade before it develops. I think having that, saying that, and mentally replaying that in my head will help prevent me, is just another thing that will help prevent me from taking these poorer trades. If a trade hasn't fully developed, or the idea's not there, or the check marks aren't all lining up, then I shouldn't be taking it, especially midday when momentum's dried up. And in terms of opportunity, just taking a little bit of a bigger step back, there's no reason to be forcing a trade or trading in a mindset like we've outlined earlier. Given that volatility is still elevated, there's still likely to be other opportunities throughout the day, so there's no reason to feel the need to take one of these trades or to take a trade that's less than A+. And going back to opportunity again, not executing on my original plan is one mistake, but following that up by taking a subpar trade, or in this case 2, because of not being in the right mindset is another mistake. And so this goes back to the concept of having more proactive self-talk to stay in my best trades until I'm proven wrong, to alleviate that feeling the need to make back P&L. So a combination of all of these will help me to eliminate these 2 anti-playbooks from my repertoire.
Really good review. Really terrific. Interns who just started, new guys who we just hired who just started, pay special attention to the clarity of solution. Gets right to it. Pay special attention to the meaningful variables that go into good and bad trades. Pay special attention to the combination of best practices that can help with the solution. Really terrific analysis. Appreciate it, really well done. Very impressed, really, really well done.
Hey, go ahead and click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos that we're producing for you in the trading community. And please take the time to add your feedback in the comments section for what videos you'd like for us to produce next and what you found helpful from this video. From all of us at S&B, train and trade well.